Hi, I'm Anastasia Skavronskaia, and I'm the Director of Player Relations at the PTPA. I think sports actually run in my blood. Both of my parents were professional athletes. My sister played professional tennis, but I only made it through the collegiate circuit and then actually realized how difficult and expensive it is, so decided to get a job out of college. But I did end up getting recruited by Octagon, and that's kind of my business side of the tennis journey began. I was able to learn a lot on, again, the business side and start working with players. A lot of experience on the player services side, and that's also when I got to manage a number of players as well, from juniors to professional players, and even was lucky enough to work with Martina Hingis at the end of her legendary career. And through that process, I also got to work at the ATP 250 in Shenzhen because I wanted to learn more about the tournament side as well. And got approached by APG, who was also running that event together with Octagon, to start the player management division. So 4 years ago, right before the pandemic started actually, I transferred over to APG and started the player management division there, but also was able to work on 2 inaugural events for the WTA, a WTA 500 in Zhengzhou, China, and a WTA 250 in Hua Hin, Thailand. And worked there for 4 years, managed players as well as the tournament side, but decided to join the PTPA and make the change very recently, and very happy to be here. I think one of the things that's actually extremely lonely, especially on the women's side. I think it's not as glamorous as everybody else thinks and imagines it to be. Yes, they get to travel to different cities every week, but that's actually takes quite a big, not only a physical toll, but a mental one as well. The biggest challenge is probably the financial side of things. If you're outside the top 20, top 50, it's really hard to make a living and ensure that your life after tennis is actually something that's already been taken care of. You know, the constant travel, the unequal prize money on the women's side, and the mental toll that it all takes at the end of the day. I think there are many examples I can bring up, but I'll bring up the most recent one, which is with an issue regarding WADA and some of the rules that are currently in place. A player that I work with had an infraction that basically involved something that hasn't even happened and is supposed to happen 3 weeks in the future. And again, when I reached out and said this really is an issue because they can't be expected to have their whereabouts correctly filed 3 weeks ahead of time because they don't even know where they're going to be, I was told that that's the current rule and that's what you do. So instead of putting the burden on WADA to try and be a little bit more flexible and change things around, they put the burden on the player to keep track of their whereabouts, which is, I think, completely unfair. I think the initial perspective was obviously negative. PTPA is kind of the bad boys of tennis, where they came in and just trying to disrupt everything and cause trouble for the current organizations. And after speaking to members of the PTPA and as well as the players of the executive committee, I realized that that's actually not the case, and that the PTPA is here to help the players and help elevate their voices. And that's what I actually explained to my players as well. You know, once they get a chance to speak to the members and actually find out what it's all about, I think it definitely changes the perspective and the perception of the PTPA. So I think it is important to educate the players about what the PTPA stands for and make them understand, have them come to the events, have them speak to the players on the executive committee as well as the members of the PTPA to figure out what it's all about and understand that they're actually trying to work together with the tours, with the ATP, with the WTA, with the ITF in order to give players a bigger voice and a seat at the table. I think the player dissatisfaction will continue to grow. I think as it has been in the past, and I think we're seeing a lot more of that. I think they will continue to feel disillusioned with the current situation and not feel well represented at all, and like they don't have a voice. I know a lot of players that I've spoken to feel like that there's not much that they can do and that their situation is as it is and that there's nothing that they can change. So I feel like they will continue to be unhappy and feel underrepresented. I think the perfect example would be the NHL in 2012, where the players were receiving a very small portion of the revenues that the NHL earned, and in 2012 the players were able to unite and use their collective bargaining power to get that, and their player association to get that to the 50-50 percentage. I think the nice thing about the PTPA is that there are a number of people that are coming in from other sports and other player associations, and obviously there are a lot of things that were successful there that I think we can bring into tennis as this NHL example, where we would be able to gain better revenue share, bigger revenue share for the players as they've been able to do in other sports. I think it's important for the players, especially in tennis, which is an individual sport. I think it is important for them to come together and be unified and be represented as a whole body as opposed to a player by themselves. I think there's a lot that comes from that in terms of, again, being able to have a voice, being able to make decisions, being able to have a much bigger impact. I think it's also important that players are represented in the same way from, Novak Djokovic and being the number 1 to the number 150, where they feel like they have an equal voice and they are able to accomplish the same things in terms of how they're represented and what they bring to the table and also what they get out of this. So I think in other sports, usually it's team sports, they already have that feeling of being a part of a team. I think the tennis industry really lacks that in a lot of ways, and I think it's good to be able to come together and put your collective bargaining power to use and be able to accomplish things for tennis as a whole and all the players involved. I've been in tennis my whole life. I started playing at 7 years old, and even though I didn't reach, the level of professional tennis, my sister did. And I feel like throughout my 12 years of experience on the business side of tennis, I've always been interested in trying to help players reach their dreams, because that was, at some point, that was also my dream. So the reason I wanted to join the PTPA is because throughout my work as an agent, I was only able to help a handful of players and be a part of their journey. And I feel like with the PTPA, I can help a lot more and hopefully make a difference in their day-to-day life and also in the larger scheme in the game of tennis as well. That we are here to work for the players and their best interests. We aim to support, represent, and elevate not only the current players, but the sport of tennis as a whole and future generations to come.